going down tonight, yeah. You can bring a friend. Live right in, let's go. Come forward and dip in the toe. Let the rhythm take control. It's going down tonight, yeah. Live right in, let's go. Come forward and dip in the toe. Let the rhythm take control. It's going down tonight, yeah. You can bring a friend. Live right in, let's go. Come forward and dip in the toe. Let the rhythm take control. It's going down tonight, yeah. Live right in, let's go. Come forward and dip in the toe. Let the rhythm take control. It's going down tonight, yeah. You can bring a friend. Live right in, let's go. Come forward and dip in the toe. Let the rhythm take control. It's going down tonight, yeah. Live right in, let's go. Come forward and dip in the toe. Let the rhythm take control. It's going down tonight, yeah.
Everybody, welcome along to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, where we are bringing you the season finale of the GT Winter Series 2022-2023 season. Of course, the Formula Winter Series season finale here as well. We've got 5 races for you across the next few hours. We will be starting with GT Winter Series at 11 o'clock this morning, so in a little over 5 minutes' time we will have our first race of the weekend. Formula Winter Series will be on at 11:45. We'll have a bit of a lunch break then with some interviews and more. We'll be streaming all day long and we'll talk you through the full timetable for the day later on. But time is of the essence at the moment because the cars of the GT Winter Series are currently headed towards the start-finish line to prepare for this first race. You can see there the main straight here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. The cars qualified this morning. We do have a grid order already here for this race. We'll talk you through the grid on the formation lap, of course, but the cars currently making their way to the start-finish line so they can line up on the grid and get ready for action. We ride on board here with a very exciting addition to the entry list this weekend. It's Michael Hughes, who we have already seen racing in the GT Winter Series this year. However, he's in a different car. He's in a second generation Porsche 991.2 GT3 machine, GT3R, and this in fact is the very car that his team Hughes Sportwagen Technik managed to secure second in the ADAC GT Masters Championship with in 2022. The car happens to be for sale at the moment, but Michael Hughes could not let it pass through his workshop without getting opportunity to race the car that brought Hughes Sportwagen Technik so much success in the hands of Ian Guven and Christian Engelhardt in the 2022 season. So exciting to see this car in its GT Masters livery racing here, and he will be starting on the front row of the grid. He'll be right up there in the thick of it in the early going, and he will be alongside the BMW M4 GT3 of Schubert Motorsport, which is the car directly ahead of him as they make their way through to the front row of the grid at the moment. Those will be the cars to watch at the sharp end of the order, both cars in the GT3 class, and we understand it will be Darren Lung starting the Schubert Motorsport GT3 car, the BMW M4 GT3. I understand, though, that we will be moving on to have a little bit of a look at something else. So I'll hand you over to our next little item before we go racing.
Custom, handcrafted mountain bikes. It all starts with an idea. Driven by the adventures that formed us. Shaped by the mountains around us. We build the best bikes for us and our friends. Propane bicycles. Customize yours now.
So then we are just moments away from going racing in the GT Winter Series. So that leaves me with the all-important task of relaying the grid to you. And we've got 23 rows worth of cars. I believe 46 taking the start for this race. So there are a lot of cars to talk you through. We have already mentioned that it will be Mikael Jus on the front row alongside Darren Lung. And it is Darren Lung on the pole position. You see him there on the inside of the front row of the grid in that BMW M4 GT3 car prepared by Schubert Motorsport. Mikael Jus alongside him on the front row. So those two will be taking the start side by side on a long drag race down to the first corner. Row 2 of the grid, it's Kenneth Heyer in the Equip Equip Vitesse prepared Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. You may remember that he has previously been entered under the banner of Schnitzelbaum Racing, but today it's Equip Vitesse, who have only recently liveried up this brand new Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, and the highly experienced GT racing veteran will be starting there on the second row alongside Dieter Sveps, the pro driver in the number 35 Huber Racing Porsche GT3. He'll be starting there on row 2. Row 3, Ronnie Bremer in the Resoon prepared KTM Crossbow, that imposing all-carbon fibre car you see there with the open canopy at the moment on row 3 of the grid. He is alongside Johannes Kapfinger of the Kapfinger Twins in that 33992 Cup spec Porsche. The car ahead of him is a 991 spec car. Row 4 of the grid, we have Per Anderson for M-Tech, that's the 57, another 992 Cup car, and then the lap time performance machine of Mick Pardo, also alongside him on row 4, another of many Porsches as we get further into the grid. Schutz Motorsports number 39 car is next, that's Marcus Salbo, and alongside him is a new entry, at least in terms of the live streamed events. For the first time we get to see Huber Racing's Porsche 991.2 GT3R. That's the 32 car that you see there on screen. Jörg Drezzo taking the start in that one, and he's joined by some more GT3 metal, of course, with Marcus Salbo there in the Mercedes AMG GT3. Row 6 of the grid, it is Matteo Ferrer in the Phoenix Racing prepared Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car, and he is alongside another Resoon KTM. That is the 472 car of Thomas Anderson. Row 7 of the grid is Klaus Horn in the number 93 car. So Klaus Horn, another of our GT3 entries. That's an older Porsche 991 GT3 car. 741 is PTT Racing's Mateusz Lizowski. The 741 car on row 7 alongside Klaus Horn. There it is. It's another 992 GT3 Cup machine. Row 8 of the grid, Lena Nutzel in the 213 alongside lap time performances Martin Engelmeyer. That is another of the Porsche 992 Cup cars. We've got a lot of them in this field. Thomas Carlson, the 109 car, is next on the grid, row 9, alongside Dennis Liebel. in the 71, another of those incredible KTMs. I believe that is one of the GTX specification KTMs. Row 10 of the grid, Leandro Martins for Racar Motorsport. That's the 991 Porsche. That is a 991 spec machine alongside the number 3 Giuseppe Guerrieri in the Raptor Engineering number 3 car. Next up, the next row of the grid, row 11, Marcus Sledmeyer in the 992 alongside Danilo Del Favro in the Formula Racing number 9 Ferrari Challenge car. So he is the first of the Cup 1 cars on the grid. The 54 is next, the 52 is next on our lineup. The 52 car being Yves Goddard in another of the Porsche 991 Cup cars, and alongside him is our GT4 pole sitter. That is Pavel Lefterov. Pavel Lefterov, a very experienced driver in GT4 machinery, and he is our GT4 pole sitter for Overdrive Racing in the number 23 car. Leo Pichler is next in the another of the Caymans. Of course, the Caymans have their own Cup 3 class where many of them are racing. The cars are just now leaving the grid as we continue to talk you through this grid. So as we follow them on the formation lap, I'll try and get through to the bottom of the pack, as it were. East Racing's Florian Blatter is alongside Leo Pichler on row 13. Row 14 is Richard Gonda for Senkia Motorsport in the mightily impressive BMW M4 GT4 car. One of the first customer teams to have that car racing in the world. Next up alongside him is Simon Prim, our championship leader. Simon Prim in the 85 CV Performance Mercedes AMG GT4 car. Simon very excited at the prospect of securing a championship today if he can keep on the right side of any dramas that happen. Matthias Kjellin is next in the Kjellin Motorsports 58 car. That's another Porsche Cup machine. The 84 CV Performance Mercedes GT4 is next. Alon Gabay is next in the 41 car. Alon Gabay of Schutz Motorsport. Formula Racing's William Tavaya is alongside him. Manuel Lau in the NM Racing Team 37 car is alongside Allied Racing's Alexander Hartwig on row 17. Daniel Drexel on row 18 in another of the KTMs, of which there are many. He's on row 18 alongside Schutz Motorsports. Rather mysterious Manolo, the mono-named driver. Christian Scar in the number 7 Auto Lounge Racing entry is on row 19 alongside Andreas Greiling in the 128 car. Row 20, Julien Lemont in the ANS Motorsport 42. That is the Ligier JS2R. East Racing's David Henn is alongside him. Clemens Drexel in the 49 Razoon car alongside Michael Klein in the 99. Or rather, the Michael Klein entered car, but it will be Felix Voigtman starting the 99 in this race. Just 2 rows of the grid to get through now. Racar Motorsports, Manuel Chinchilla, the 820, and Pierre Lemers in the number 8 car. The final row of the grid is Promotion Motorsports Smorg, alongside Sorg Rennsport, Henning Erschweiler, rounding out our 23 rows of this grid. We are going racing here for 25 minutes. It's a 25-minute sprint race that we have here with over 40 of these GT3, GT4, Cup and more machines, all taking to the circuit as one. It's going to be an exciting 25 minutes. This is also one of the first races, if not the very first race, to take place on the new for 2023 Formula One layout here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. I say new, of course. What's old is new again. The former line through the final sector before the complicated final chicane was added has been reinstated as a layout for international car racing after some improvements to the runoff areas and things of that nature. We're just approaching the final section now. Before, they would arc to the right and go through a tight little chicane. However, now the final 2 corners of the lap are once again, as when the circuit was designed in 1991, 2 fast right-hand sweepers, which adds a whole new layer of complexity and excitement to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya that we haven't seen in quite a few years in this final sector. The average lap speeds have gone up. And so have the number of entries that we've got here in the GT Winter Series. We approach the start line then for the beginning of this 25-minute race. We're riding on board with Mikael Jus. He has a drag race with Darren Lung to the first corner. The cars accelerate and we go racing for the first time this weekend in the GT Winter Series at Barcelona. Can Darren Lung hold on to the inside as they approach the first corner? One of the KTM Crossbow GT2s there trying to make its way up with the superior straight line speed, may have third place. Mikael Jus and Kenneth Heyer both go straight across the runoff area at turn 2. They're running out of space. And a spin. The KTM Crossbow, I believe that was. The GT2 car has had a spin there. The KTM Crossbow that started right up at the sharp end of the grid there went looping by the looks of it. I believe that was Ronnie Bremer who had a spin there. And collision further back in the pack as well. Another KTM involved in that one, as well as one of the Porsche 992 GT3 Cup cars. Now, I can't quite make out the number, but we're zooming in. It's the 109 car. The 109 car involved in a collision there then. Meanwhile, the race leader is Darren Lung, and he is under pressure from Mikael Jus. The 109 Cup car is Thomas Carlson in the M-Tech racing team.
Can call him that he goes on the camera and shooting.
And I understand that the cars are continuing as intended, so thankfully we haven't lost either of those two cars in that incident that we saw at turn 4. But as the field makes its way through towards the final section, our two race leaders will still be at very close quarters. It looked as though Darren Lung and Mikael Jus were very close together indeed. They'll come back onto the main straight now, and it is Mikael Jus in the lead, I can just about see there. So Mikael Jus has taken the race lead, and some of the other cars further back in the pack there. Mikael Jus, it is though, in the lead. Darren Lung is next. Then it's Kenneth Heyer as they run down towards the first corner. And it is Mikael Jus, race leader then. He started on the outside of the front row. He has managed to get himself into the lead. He was pressuring Darren Lung last time we saw them halfway through the first lap, so he got through somewhere in the final sector. We continue to watch some of the battles and some of the moving and shaking further back in the pack. Our GT4 class leader is still the number 23 machine. That's Pavel Lefterov of Overdrive Racing. So Pavel Lefterov, who was our pole sitter in the GT4 class, continues to lead the way in GT4. So Pavel Lefterov on the move at the moment. And a lot of GT4 competition behind him, including Leo Pichler. We continue to see some of the cars further back in the field, while Mikael Jus has built a massive lead already, 2.7 seconds over Darren Lung of Schubert Motorsport. So Mikael Jus, the owner of the eponymous Jus Sportwagen Technik team, is doing very well indeed in the early stages here. Kenneth Heyer is pressuring Darren Lung though. Heyer racing for the first time in the Mercedes-AMG GT3 for Equip Vitesse and is challenging for second place at the moment. Meanwhile, we continue to see some of the battling further back. The Allied Racing Porsche there, one of the GT4 cars we just saw fighting further back. Of course, recent changes to this circuit, the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, include what we saw there, the change configuration in the final sector. There was a car off in the gravel there, but I didn't see which car it was. But it was being recovered by a tow truck under local yellow flags there. So they've decided not to pause the race. There is the battle for second place that we saw just briefly through that camera shot. That is Kenneth Heyer scrapping for second place at the moment. Mikael Jus in the race lead, pulling away though at the front of the order. The gap is already out to 4 seconds. We've seen this season in the GT Winter Series just how good Mikael Jus can be at the wheel. Obviously, we saw him in a first-generation Porsche 991 GT3R earlier in the season. This is the first time he's brought out this 991.2, a car which is currently for sale. If you want a competitive GT3 machine for your garage or indeed your race team. There is our race leader. Here comes the battle for second place. Darren Lung in the back of shot there with Kenneth Heyer behind him. Kenneth Heyer has been making life incredibly difficult for the driver of the Schubert BMW. Johannes Kapfinger there in fourth place. He leads the Cup 2 class. Then it's another GT3 Dryzov in the Huber Racing 32 car. As the field continues to pass through the lens, we see the Schutz Motorsport 36 Mercedes-AMG GT3 just came through shot. That car leads in Cup X, and here comes the GT4 leading crews, including the Senkia BMW that we just saw. That car runs third, just ahead of them, Leo Pichler in the Razun 96, and ahead of that we have Pavel Lefterov, the GT4 class leader. Now that is one of the Caymans that is being recovered there under local yellows, but it's just a bit too far away for me to identify. I do have a nice spotter's guide here to try and assist me on that front, and I am trying to potentially find... Unfortunately, it's a very simple white livery, which does make identification a little bit harder. Hearing that it might be the number 18 car that is being recovered, but we continue to look at the cars that are not stuck in a gravel trap at the moment. The 18 car would be Sorg Rennsport's Porsche Cayman, so that would track with what we're seeing here on the timing screens, would it? Just taking a look at the moment. The 18 car does appear to be missing, yes indeed, so I believe it is Leonard Paul Naumann that has gone missing there. So this race progresses. Kenneth Heyer going up towards the end of the second sector, all over the back of Darren Lung as they approach that yellow flag section, which could be a blessing for Darren Lung, as we see the Dieter Sveps car getting sideways there. That's a Huber Racing inter-team battle at the moment, as Dieter Sveps was challenging Drysov there. This is the battle for second place that I was telling you about, though. There's Darren Lung with Kenneth Heyer still behind him, so Heyer couldn't get the move done, I imagine, mostly because of the fact that there are still yellow flags out on the circuit in that final sector at the moment. Then there's a little gap back to Johannes Kapfinger, and then I thought it was Dieter Sveps at the wheel of the 35 Porsche Carrera Cup GT3. However, I am now seeing on screen that it's listed, on the timing at least, as the 35 car driven by Mikael Kapfinger. So Mikael Kapfinger appears to be at the wheel of the 35 car that currently sits 5th in class. We've got a car slowing at the top of the shot there. If we could just look a little bit up. Which car is that? We pan away from it, but there is a car slowing just coming past where our camera is at the moment, and I'm trying to identify it. There it is, car slow at the bottom of screen there. One of the Porsche 992 Cup machines, certainly, and it is one of, I believe, might be the Kjell Motorsports car. I'm just trying to confirm that. It is Kjell Motorsports 58 car that is slowing there, and slowing drastically as well. Looks like they will just about get the car back into the pit lane, but that is not the start that would have been desired for Matthias Kjellin, who just about gets the car back in. Safety car, though, has been declared. Safety car out with 60 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and that's because CV Performance Group has one of their cars stranded in the gravel trap. I just realised it's a second car that has come to a halt there in the gravel. Now, it's not Simon Prim, because he is still circulating. It's the 84 CV Performance Group car that has come to a halt there. Safety car conditions mean the marshals can now safely head towards the entry. And the 84 car, Fabio Rauer at the wheel, has managed to get stranded there in that gravel trap. Quite easily done on a sharp braking zone coming off a long, fast straight. And safety car out for the first time in this race then. We'd typically expect a safety car in the first lap with an excess of 40 GT cars on the circuit, but it's taken a little while for there to be a pause in the action. The 84 car is stranded, and the pickup truck makes its way out into the gravel trap once more. Now I'm hearing as well as the 58 car, which we saw head into the pit lane. We may have another pit caller as well. That's the 81 Promotion Motorsport BMW Cup car of Smorg. So the BMW M2CS has had to return to the pits. Hopefully they haven't got too much of a problem with the car. My thanks to colleague Lukas Gajewski for bringing me that update off camera. We will introduce and formally welcome Lukas into the stream for the podium ceremony at the end of this first race. So, safety car conditions gives us a good opportunity to run you through the runners and riders in each of the classes at the moment. As you can see, behind the safety car, we have our race leader, Mikael Jus. Darren Lung, so far, has managed to hold off the advances of Kenneth Heyer behind him. Kenneth Heyer rounding out the top three, all GT3 cars in the top three. Then it is Johannes Kapfinger in the 33 car. An impressive performance out of Johannes in the 992 Cup machine, and arguably even more impressive is we understand Mikael Kapfinger at the wheel of the other Huber Racing Cup 2 entry. That car is an older 991.2 Cup machine, and Mikael Kapfinger is currently in that queue in 5th position. In 6th place is Drysov in the Huber Racing car. Great to see that machine. The number 32 Huber Racing car, Jörg Drysov at the wheel at the moment. That car runs 6th overall and 4th in the GT3 class. Purple and orange livery. Rather reminds me of a Cadbury Crunchy, if you know, you know. The leader in Cup X is 8th overall. That is Schutz Motorsports Mercedes AMG GT3 car. Now that is running in Cup X, which would either mean they've got haven't got the correct data logger to be in the GT3 class, or they could be running the car sans some of the restrictors that inherently come with the GT3 BOP. I am not sure which one. I'm not sure which scenario is at play there. I now understand that the 84 CV Performance Group Mercedes has been brought into the pit lane. So Fabio Rauer in the CV Performance AMG GT4 is into the pit lane. Of course, that is the car that was stranded in the gravel trap before, so it's not a surprise that it is now in the pits necessarily. Continuing to run you through some of the class leaders, though. We've mentioned the Cup X leader, of course, being Salbo. Johannes Kapfinger leading Cup 2. Our leader in the Cup 1 class is the Formula Racing number 9 Ferrari. 2 cars from Formula Racing in the Cup 1 class this weekend. And the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo machine of Danilo Del Fevero currently leads in Cup 1. That car is, of course, Ferrari, as I said, 488 Challenge Evo. All cars in that class are of that specification. 19th overall and leading in GT4 is Pavel Lefterov for Overdrive Racing. He leads from Leo Pichler for Razun in the GT4 KTM. And then it is Richard Gonda. As we just saw there, the 84 CV Performance Group Mercedes actually coming back out of the pit lane. So good to see that there's no damage there for that GT4 number 84 CV Performance Group entry. So they've done well to stay out of the barriers, of course. We saw that while the car was embedded in the gravel, thankfully Fabio Rauer didn't hit anything, and the car has been returned to the race now. But in GT4, it's Lefterov from Pichler, from Richard Gonda of Senkia Motorsport. Cup 3 currently led by Yannick Mettler. Manic Yannick, as I've called him in the past for his qualifying exploits. He leads Cup 3, 22nd overall, and he leads Cup 3 by quite a comfortable margin. David Henn is next. It's an East Racing 1-2 in the Cup 3 class at the moment. So I expect the safety car will be in shortly, if not at the end of this lap. We've got 10 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. The obstruction down in the final sector has been cleared. That, of course, at turn 10. So we should see the racing resume shortly. Indeed, the safety car is distancing itself from the pack, and we are going to go racing. What was a 25-minute sprint race is now going to become a 10-minute dash. And I'm not even going to repeat the old adage relating to safety cars because I'm sure you all know it. So then we go back to racing. There's a Cayman back marker there that's holding up some of the cars further back in the queue. Of course, you can't overtake before the start-finish line when we get back to racing after a safety car. So this is most frustrating for everybody else. The chap in the Cayman, I think, is thinking, why aren't you going past me? And the answer is, well, we're not allowed. But the racing has resumed, and we now see everyone stream past the red and white Cayman, and it's a tight pack of cars then that has been held up. The top three have broken away, and then fourth back are all in one big scrum at the moment. Everybody trying to find their space. One of the KTMs going a little bit off circuit there and losing a few positions. Hopefully that was just an error and not a sign of a problem for Anderson in the 472 KTM. And oh, there was a crash there at turn 1, just as we cut away there. Another of the KTMs at the first corner having a moment there. Now I believe that might be the same KTM that we've already seen in the wars. The 510 car it is. And I think this was the car that spun on the first lap. Yes, it was. Bremer in the 510 car has, for the second time in this race, had a drama out on circuit. And I'm sure that is going to be less than popular with him, as a spin in the pack there. That's one of the Porsche 992 Cup cars. It's a 57 machine. So the 57 car of Anderson, that is one of the M-Tech racing cars that has had a spin there. And that is most unfortunate. And hopefully he can get that car out without any intervention. But I fear he's stuck in that gravel trap. And I think he's a bit too close to the racing surface to get that recovered under local yellows. We don't believe we've gone under safety car yet. But we see Mikael Jus leading the way. And once again building a lead over Darren Lung behind. Lung in second place, still with Kenneth Heyer, keeping a watching brief in second and third place. But that 57 car, driven by Per Anderson, certainly not in an ideal location at the moment in that gravel trap. Still just under local yellows at the moment. As we continue to watch that battle for second place, they've just gone out of shot there, but the safety car has been declared again. Second time in the race we have a safety car. We did mention that safety cars breed safety cars, didn't we? And, well, I alluded to it at least, and sure enough, it has come to pass. For a second time in this race, we have a safety car period. There was an accident down at the first corner, which everyone drove away from. We weren't so lucky, though, with the spin for Per Anderson in the 57 M-Tech Porsche. Well, take a deep breath and recover once again, as we've had more drama in the early stages of this race, or rather in the mid stages of this race. And well, let's hope we can get back underway before the end of the clock. We have 25 minutes on the clock at the start, and there's only 6 minutes and 45 left to go here. And I'm just hearing that the 510 car is into the pit lane, which frankly doesn't surprise me too much. Bremer has had a very problematic race so far, and we see that the 93 car is also in. That's Klaus Horn's Youth Sportwagen Technik Porsche. So the 93 car also in. We didn't see anything happen to that car on camera as far as I know. However, it is in the pit lane. So the 510 car of Ronnie Bremer is into the pits as well, as we heard over the headset and as I relayed. But a few cars having dramas in this first race, the 57 being recovered as we speak. Mikael Jus, still our race leader here in the GT3 class at the moment. And well, as expected, 40 plus GT cars on the circuit can sometimes cause a few issues. But hopefully we can get this race underway again before the time elapses. We've got 5 minutes left of this race at the moment. 5 minutes and 5 seconds if you want to be completely precise. As the time ticks down here, Mikael Jus, our race leader from Darren Lung and Kenneth Heyer. Johannes Kapfinger still leads the way in the Cup 2 class. And no changes in any of the other classes either. Pavel Lefterov may be quite thankful for some of these pauses in the racing action. Now we see the recovery completed on that 57 car, and we are going to return to racing this lap. It has been confirmed on the timing screen. So the Nissan GTR safety car, which I believe is the only car currently on circuit with four-wheel drive, will soon exit stage right, and we will go racing once again with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. There is the 58 car we mentioned, so Matthias Kjellin of Kjellin Motorsport, the Porsche Carrera Cup Scandinavia regulars. And oh, okay, that's a sign of a busted radiator. So I fear that car may have made front on rear contact with someone and damage the radiator on the front of that Porsche, which is an all too common occurrence. However, we will be racing again in just a few seconds. The cars will be making their way towards the start-finish line now. So let's go back to the racing action if we can, because let's see whether Kenneth Heyer can finally get that done for second place. Where are they now? They should be just coming around the final corner, and we should see them restart the race in just a few seconds. Mikael Jus will be leading them away again. There is the safety car. Here comes Mikael Jus as our race leader. Then it's Darren Lung in second place. Kenneth Heyer once again looking for the slipstream as he runs there in third place. He would love to get into second, but he's not going to take any undue risks with what is a brand new chassis purchased for the Equip Vitesse team. The racing resumes once again. Swabo in the Schutz Motorsport Mercedes-AMG GT3 there, further back in the top 10. Our Cup X-Class leader was trying to get past Sedelmeier, Marcus Sledmeier there, but Sledmeier continues to hold what is 8th overall. There you see the AMG GT3 just following Sledmeier at the moment. We've got a litany of Porsche 992 and the older 991 spec Cup cars there in the latter half of the top 10 and all through the top 20. And here we see the rest of the pack going through. Looks like the GT4 lead is still with Pavel Lefterov at the moment. You see we've got a couple of Audi R8 LMS GT4 cars on the grid this weekend as well. A welcome addition to the field, the singing V10 motors of Auto Lounge Racing. But there we see the pack streaming through turn 9. For the first lap back under green flag. We've got 1 minute and 55 seconds of this race left to go. So I suspect that this time by we will begin the final lap of the race. The lap times have been in the 1 minute 40s, the low 1 minute 40s, and sure enough, as the clock ticks now just under 1 minute 40 to go, it will be Mikael Jus this time by starting the final lap of the race. So he just needs to get away. But what has happened to Darren Lung? Darren Lung has come to a halt somewhere on circuit in the final sector. He made it through sector 2, but he made it through slowly. Darren Lung has a problem out there on circuit for Schubert Motorsport, the BMW M4 GT3, which took all 3 wins at the Navarra round last weekend. It may well end up with a non-finish in this race, the first race of the weekend at Barcelona. Huge drama for the British racer Darren Lung. Schubert Motorsport prepare an immaculate car, but even they are not infallible, and it seems that something has gone wrong with that car. I think it's still moving, but it's very slow in how it is moving. We look over the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia. Yes, this is the GT Winter Series. Yes, it is March. but we are well into the 20s in terms of weather. In fact, I'm seeing 18 degrees Celsius at the moment, so just under 20 degrees. But it is beautiful weather for a motor race, and the drivers lapping in the endless summer of GT Winter Series. We've got a car in the gravel down at the first corner. That's the 820 Porsche, so the Racar Motorsport Porsche in strife. However, in the final few corners of the lap, we will have our race leader coming around the final sequence of corners for the final time in the race. So Mikael Yus will be coming around the last corners now to try and take the race victory. And here he comes now out of the final turn. The checkered flag waves for Mikael Yus, who claims the win for the first time this weekend in the GT Winter Series. Back to winning ways is Mikael Yus in the wonderful Porsche 991.2 Cup car. Second across the line is Kenneth Heyer in the GT3 Mercedes. The AMG GT3 takes second place on its debut in the hands of Equip Vitesse. Johannes Kapfinger takes third position. He also takes the Cup 2 class win, and the GT4 leader just across the line, Pavel Levterov, takes the win for Overdrive Racing. Pavel Levterov, who had a good season in ADAC GT4 Germany last year with Stefan Bastangiev, has added another class win in the GT4 class here in GT Winter Series. He takes that win from Leo Pichler and Richard Gonda. Yannick Mettler takes the Cup 3 class win. So Yannick Mettler in the Porsche GT4 machine for East Racing has secured a result there. And the leader in Cup X, the winner in Cup X, was indeed Saubo in the Schutz Motorsport Mercedes AMG GT3. So Marcus Saubo starts his weekend with a win in his class. The Cup 4 class is taken by Le Mans in the ANS Motorsport car, or Le Moyne, I should say, in the ANS Motorsport Ligier JS2R. That was 28th overall as well in the race. The Cup 1 honours eventually went to Daniel De Favreau. As was expected, the Formula Racing car that was in the Cup 1 class all race long took the flag 15th overall among a whole batch of Porsche 992 GT3 Cup cars in Cup 2. But Del Favreau claims the win in the Cup 1 class. I think Mikael Yus will be wearing a big smile on his face after that race. He was eager to get a chance to drive this stunning Porsche 991.2 Cup car, the number 91 machine that we just saw him win the race with. That car was hugely successful in the 2022 ADAC GT Masters in the hands of Ian Chen Guven and Christian Engelhardt. And Mikael Yus, who is putting the car up for sale. In fact, it is already up for sale. And, well, this is a rather dynamic advert, isn't it, for him, racing the car and proving that even though there is now a 992 Cup car, the 991.2 is still very potent in its own right. So Yus takes the win from Kenneth Heyer, and Johannes Kapfinger rounding out the top three. Of course, he also takes the Cup 2 honours. It was a disrupted race. Safety car certainly played its part. The Nissan GTR got a few laps of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in. But Mikael Yus celebrating with the team. He's had several wins already this season in the GT Winter Series of 2022-2023. There's Kenneth Heyer. And Kenneth with a good scrap with Darren Lung for much of the race. But Darren, of course, fell through the order right at the end. Now, he did actually keep going, and he finished 21st overall, did Darren Lung. So I get the impression he might have just made an error somewhere out on circuit and then carried on. I suspected he might have slowed down with a mechanical issue, but it seems as though Darren Lung for Schubert Motorsport did finish the race in 21st overall. However, of course, we would have expected him to be fighting for the podium. So I think Darren may have made an error or had an incident somewhere out on the circuit, but either way he fell through the order and he ended up losing third in the GT3 class as well. So it will be a class podium in GT3 for the Huber Racing team. The 32 car of Jörg Dreisov will round out the podium within the GT3 class. Speaking of podiums, we will, when we do get the drivers herded up to the podium, we will hear from some of the drivers, including race winner Michael Jus, along with my colleague Lukas Gajewski. But of course, racing drivers, as I'm sure many of you will know, are often a challenging bunch to herd immediately post-race. They've got overtakes to talk about, or other matters to discuss, and often it takes a little while to get them back up onto the podium, even though there's a trophy in a bottle waiting for them up there on the podium. We see there the number 7 car just coming out of shot there. That is the Auto Lounge Racing Audi R8 LMS GT4. Now, one of the R8s was running with a little bit of front-end damage there on the circuit. I'm not sure if it was the number 7 or the sister car, the number 8 of Pierre Lemers, but one of them was certainly running with damage, only cosmetic in nature, mind you. As we look from the top of the podium, we see there the cars on the overall top 3. Johannes Kapfinger, the Cup 2 winner, also on that overall podium. And just behind this 99 Porsche, we have the KTM Crossbow, a car that I absolutely love. Of course, we've got so many KTM Crossbow variants out in the world, but the car we see just going through shot there, the 49 car, is more akin to what you see in events like the Austrian Histo Cup category. And as you can see, it's got a rather large rear wing on the back of it that was not stock, didn't come as standard on the car, but it is a mighty dramatic looking piece of machinery. Clemens Drexel racing that 49 KTM Crossbow. That's the only open top crossbow racing with us this weekend in GT Winter Series. Of course, most of the others have that very famous canopy. In fact, you can just see one of the drivers in the back of shot there closing the canopy on one of those KTMs. The GT4s, the GT2s, and indeed the GTX specification KTM Crossbows all have that wonderful fighter jet style canopy from which you have to extract yourself directly upward out of the car. Certainly KTM producing some of the most unique GT4 cars in the paddock internationally, and the same applies to the GT2s as well, of course. The GT2 spec car, the smallest capacity engine in the GT2 class, the modern day SRO GT2 class. It is the 5-cylinder Audi engine that they use in the Crossbow GT2. Makes a wonderful V10-esque howl as it runs past our start-finish line and bounces off the big grandstand here at Barcelona as well. A magnificent noise. You see there that the podium is ready, however the drivers are not. So while the physical podium is ready to go, we still have to wait for some of our competitors to accept their prizes from this first GT Winter Series race. We are due the first race of the Formula Winter Series in the not too distant future. It will be 11:45 supposedly for the Formula Winter Series race 1. Although I think we might be a little bit behind schedule on that. I'm not sure if those cars have actually made their way onto the grid yet, but I don't believe they have. So hopefully we do get time to get that podium shown on the live stream before we go racing in Formula Winter Series. And us racing top 5 in qualifying in Formula Winter Series with Gianmarco Pradel on pole position. But we'll talk a bit more about them when it is their time. For now, we await this podium in GT Winter Series. And my colleague Lukas Gajewski is primed and ready to bring us the podium as and when we can get started. the drivers I can see are starting to make their way to where they need to be through the windows there, so hopefully it won't be too long before we get the podium ceremony started. It will be a first win of the weekend for Mikael Jus, of course. He's got 2 more GT Winter Series races to attempt to win. He's got the Sprint Race 2, which takes place at 14:10 local time, so 14:10 CET is when we'll see the GT Winter Series cars back out on the circuit. So 25 minutes of action for those cars. We'll see that at 14:10 local time, and the endurance race will start at 16:50, 4:50 p.m. Local time. That will be a 1-hour race, and Mikael Jus, as well as several others, will all be running that race solo, whereas the likes of Darren Lung have a co-driver, and some very good co-drivers up and down the paddock. Of course, a lot of the co-drivers will also be the driver coach for an amateur racer, and that's the case for Darren Lung as well. He's got BMW hot shoe Ben Harper alongside him in the number 20 Schubert BMW. So it was a race win for Mikael Jus, and hopefully we see him up on the podium shortly. The Formula Winter Series race will be gearing up and getting ready to go, but the car's not there on the circuit yet, so I do think we have a slight delay in the programme at the moment. You see the sheer number of cars there in Parc Fermé. As we said, 46 cars were due to take the start of this race. I'm not sure if we got the full 46, but we certainly had an excess of 40 cars out there on the circuit. And these large entries really are a hallmark of the GT Winter Series. And the fact that we are quite so popular here in the GT Winter Series has enabled some new arrangements that will be announced later on in the stream as we expand the Giedlich Racing weekends for 2023 and 2024. But I'll let people better qualified than me explain that when we show you some footage and a reveal trailer a little later on. Looks like Lukas Gajewski is starting to get ready, so I think we are just a few moments away from a podium, and I have confirmation that Lukas Gajewski has some racing drivers for our podium. Over to you, Lukas.
Thank you very much, Adam. We are ready for the first podium after the first race for the GT Winter Series here at Barcelona. Please welcome in 3rd place for Huber Racing, Johannes Kapfinger. In 2nd place for Equipe Vitesse, Kenneth Heyer. And your winner from Jos Rennsporttechnik, Michael Jos. So here we come to the presentation of the trophies done by Stefan Lehner and by Markus Giedlich from the Giedlich Racing organization, promoters of course for the GT Winter Series, presenting the silverware to our winning drivers. And of course now we need a nice picture for our 3 winners on the podium, and once that is done and dusted, let's have a huge round of applause from the pit lane for the top 3 in race 1 for Johannes Kapfinger, Kenneth Heyer, and your winner, Michael Jos. Thank you very much, guys. But as you know, there is a second podium coming up in just a second, which is our race points podium. As you know, in GT Winter Series, points are awarded in the classes. So here we have the podium results in the classes coming up just in a moment. I think we're just collecting one of the drivers who has already made his escaped downstairs, but we need him for a second time on the podium here. So here we have our points podium after race 1. In third place, it's Michael Joos. Overall race winner, scoring the third biggest amount of points. In second place, congratulations to Johannes Kapfinger. No, sorry, I think I just I might have made a mistake, Johannes. I'm sorry. Would you just leave the stage for a second? We're gonna have a second go. So sorry. In second place, in the point scoring, it's Pavel Lefterov. And now, most points scored in race number 1 for Johannes Kapfinger. And there we go. Johannes, well done. First place in terms of the points. And here we have the trophies presented by Stefan and by Marcus for the top 3 point scorers in race number 1. Very important, of course, for Johannes in terms of the championship. Of course, we're going to pick that one up later on with a second sprint race and the big one, the endurance race, to determine the new champion. Guys, please get together on the highest podium for our pictures. And then, of course, we are ready to give a big round of applause. The top 3 point scorers, Michael Joos, Pavel Lefterov and Johannes Kapfinger. So that's it for the first race, and let's head back to Adam in commentary for the first race of the Formula Winter Series.